Hi, and welcome to the DSP Framework tutorial part 2. We're creating an effects bus or effects, digital processing effects, audio effects with SuperCollider. All right, so if you are new, go ahead and check out part 1. And we're going to start with our code from part 1. And what I want to start with right now is to create a basic template. So what we're going to get into is our first effect in this tutorial. Yeah, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and make an effect and use that bus system to route it through the effect and then out to our speaker. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to create a little template here. Let's go ahead and call it the template for all kind of future effects are synth def, and we'll do a couple things. So let me essentially, yeah, everyone has this code. So let me essentially just copy that there, the router, okay? And we'll call this the template, but you'll add it your own name when you get to it. Essentially, this is pretty much all. We're going to use most of this here. We have an in bus, so we're going to continue to use in AR from our in bus. Okay, so we're going to draw from some kind of source, and we're going to stick it out some kind of out bus, whether it be a private bus or out our speakers. All right, and what we should do in here is we should add a variable here and call it our sig, and then here our signal should be some kind of FX. We'll just call it FX, and then the in will be the source. Okay, but that's just a placeholder for now. That's not actually something, I don't think. Add a couple more generic things that we're going to end up using most of the time. We'll have an amp argument, and that'll be our sig instead. Sorry, we'll need to change that to sig because it'll be the signal that's processed, and we're going to multiply that by the amp. All right. And another thing we probably should do is to create an envelope so that, you can use the envelope, but more so that when you engage it, it doesn't clip, when you come on. So just a pretty simple envelope. So, and then if you want to add a decay or something, you can do that for depending on the type of effect. So you control when it's the effect's put on, it comes on with a certain attack, and then when it's released, it releases with a certain release or decay. All right, so let's do an env. And if this is new to you, check out some of my earlier videos where we talk about envelopes in particular. I'm just going to kind of rush through this, but env is going to be a going to equal envelope generator, envgen.ar, okay? And we'll use, as our envelope, we'll use env.asr, okay? Because we want one of those sustained types where we have an attack and then we have a release. We have a trigger for an attack and a trigger for a release. Okay, and we can modify these, which will make them arguments: ATK, SUS, REL, and CRV. Okay, so that's our envelope, and then we'll have a trig or gate to actually trigger our envelope for envelope generator, and that should do it. So we need to add all these. I will put a comma here and just make a new line of arguments so it's a little bit clearer. And you can probably just copy all these here. Attack, sustain, release, curve, copy those and pop those in there. And we also have to add the gate. Okay, let's set some defaults. We're going to have just a really quick attack just so it doesn't clip. 0, whatever, 2, something 20 milliseconds. Sustain, 0.1 maybe. No sustain. Oh, sustain level is 1. I think it's a sustain level. So it's always going to be 1. Actually, you know what? We'll just hard code that to 1. Because we have the amp. So let's get rid of that. And then release will be equal to 100 milliseconds, 0.1. Curve will equal to, say, -2. And remember, when you're using the equals, make a space because equals minus is something else. And gate will set a default to 1 so that when we call the synth, when we create an instance, it automatically releases the envelope. And then, attacks the envelope. And then let's times our signal by the env as well, the amp and the envelope all together. Okay, so that there is our template. Save that. And that should be pretty good for some effects. All right, so let's go ahead and create our first effect here. Okay, and we're going to make a reverb. And I'm going to use this one called GP verb. I'll just call it verb. And again, we're taking our template and we're just using that. I'm going to use this one called JP Verb. Now these are, I'm going to have to show you this. Go to this website here, DEINDU gens. These are great. I really love these. Really, really nicely made. And you can download if you're on Apple Mac. You can download here. Otherwise, I think you can go to GitHub. You have to build from source for Linux. I'm not sure about Windows. And then, or chances are, if you've already installed your SC3 plugins, and I think there's an earlier video, just check it out. That shows you how to do that. You already have it installed. Okay, these are great. Otherwise, if you don't have it, you can just use reverb in this case. You can just use the SIG equals reverb.ar. Okay, let me just see what arguments there are here. We'll just go ahead and make this real quick. In will be our source, and then you can just, you can have arguments mix, room, RM, damp. Okay, something like that, and you can just make those arguments, and I'll have some reverb. Okay. In our case, I'm going to use this JP verb. Okay. And then its in is going to be the source. That's the in here. So all these things, I guess we're going to have to sort of check out. I'm not sure that we need arguments for everything, but you never know. What might be nice, but let me just fill them in anyways for now. So I don't know. This is probably the decay time for 60 dB, I think. So for it to decay to 60 dB or negative 60 dB, it's 1 second, I think. So T60, we'll call it anyways. Damp, size. Oh yeah, early reflections, is it? Okay, we'll just call it diff, mod depth, mod freak. And mid, low, high, I'm not sure what about all those. Let's just leave those as they are. Let's leave those. Actually, you know what? Let's just leave all those. You can play around with those. But for now, for just simplicity's sake, let's just leave all those defaults. And you can look up the help file too and just check it out. See what they all say about JP verb and those arguments. And they generally give you a little range, just nice. So I think for my class we put the ranges in, so go ahead and do that. You can do this nice little commenting thing where you do like a paragraph comment, but in the middle of a sentence, So this is generally 0.1 to 60. So and then just do comment off like that. Okay, so you can have a range in there right next to your arguments. But let's do it up here. Sorry. So again, up args, I'm going to put a comma and then make a new line. It'll still read just the same. And then I'll copy that here and pop that in there. So T60 is going to equal, say, by default, whichever the default is. I think it was 1, huh? And then we'll have that little comment there. And get rid of this in here so it doesn't clutter up our code there. We'll have our damp, and its default is, let's see, damp default is 0, size is 1707. Okay, 0, no dampening. And again, we can just copy this little commenting trick here. And they said dampening 0 to 1. So 0 to 1. And we'll create a new line for readability. SC equals to 1, I think by default. Put that commenting thing, and they say 0.5 to 5. To 5. Early diff. I just think I call it diff, or diff even. And 0.707. And then the commenting is 0 to 1. And, well, we'll just leave it there, right? So mod depth, mod, you can adjust those things. Let's get rid of that comma. Adjust those things as you will. This is kind of interesting. You can have reverberation time per band. You can have a band, a longer band, longer reverberations in the highs or in the lows and stuff, and then there's these crossover frequencies. It's pretty interesting. You can do a lot of different things. But let's go over these really quickly. Approximate reverberation time in seconds. Sorry, T60 time for reverb decay 60 dB. That's what I thought. Damp control is dampening is dampening. So 1 is complete dampening. There's not much reverb, and 0 is no dampening at all. Size is the kind of the size of the space. Early diff is what I thought it was. Early reflections. So they mentioned that values of 707 or more produce sort of smooth decay, so more like a traditional reverb. Lower values produce a slower buildup of echoes. Right, so those are the early reflections, which is interesting. Okay, so let's get rid of that there. And we have our arguments here for our envelope, and then we have our arguments for our effect. And we just kind of pop that in there just like we did for the template. We replace that FX here, and we have everything we need. Okay, so that's essentially our template. Our first effect. Okay, so let's talk a little bit again about, just to remind you slightly, operations there, or not over operations, what we're kind of getting into here in terms of the buses. So we're going to have our input into the bus, and then we're going to have our effects pull out of the input from the bus, and then just go straight out. So we'll just follow this chain right here. Okay, and eventually, we can daisy chain effects here. And remember, we have to pay attention to the groups. Our input has to be before our FX, and our out, which is one and the same, our FX and the out is just one and the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that then when we execute. So if we evaluate all these together, we can go ahead and just pop a parentheses here, so we can just evaluate everything all together, and then a parentheses down at the end of it here. At the end of our synth desk, we'll control our synth separately. All right, and we'll go ahead and boot it. I think I'm starting from fresh. Yeah, I'll go ahead and boot. All right, and then I'll go ahead and evaluate all that. Oops. So, oh right, okay. So we have to just make sure we comment out our template because it doesn't actually have a working UGen. All right. Right, okay, so that's all gone now. So our first synth that we're going to create, from the old code from the part 1, a synth, and we're going to have the mic in, use that synth def to just bring the mic signal in. It's going to go to OBS 0, but let's just go ahead and send it directly to the bus. So instead of OBS 0, we'll send it to the bus there. If you recall, this B0 audio bus. Okay. And remember, we do have to assign it to that group, that G0, so it executes first. Go ahead and send that. And as you can hear, nothing's coming out of my speakers just yet. And then we'll go ahead and set the B synth, except this time it'll be the verb. Okay. And our in bus is going to be the B0. And our out bus will be directly to the speakers, and we'll assign it to the group 1. Okay. And let me turn that down a little bit. And hopefully that's working. Doesn't seem to be working. Okay. I think I found my mistake. It's just simply I didn't put a default for the amp, so there was no amp default. So if you go up to your verb synth def there, and you equal 1, we'll go ahead and set that to the amp. And I think I've recompiled there, and then I'll boot, and I'll send everything again. Start my source there, and no things coming out, and then start my reverb, and there it works good. Okay, and then you can set, for example, damp to 0 maybe. I think damp is already 0. So, yep. Let's see, the diff to 0.2, maybe much lower. It's more echoey. And then maybe the size. And let's see. it's just handy to have these extra arguments. So 0.5 to 5. Let's go to like 5 or 4, something like that. And oh, that's interesting. Let's pop that way up. See if it. Yeah. Okay. Well, you get the point. It's an effect, anyways. Okay. So now I freed that, and as you know, as I mentioned in the last tutorial, this is still going. It's still coming in, and I can just at any time grab it from the mic in and send it out. And there it is. Or I could set it to a private bus, and I can send it back out to tilde B0. We'll do IBS. Okay. And then, oops. Oh, sorry. OBS. Outbus. Okay, so now if you meter it, it's not coming out anything. But if I query all nodes, you see that both are still active. The reverb is still active and mic in is still active. It's just going back out to the private bus. So there. Okay. If we change that back to say 1 to send out the other speaker, and there it's coming out the other speaker now. Okay. Let's go ahead and free all that. Now, okay, so basically that's it. Let's stop that one here, make it a slightly shorter one. We did our first effect there. So the idea is that you would grab, you'd grab a source and create an effect, and then grab that source and pop it out through an effect. Okay, I showed you this handy template, which is nice. We're going to use that for all our effects, at least as a starting point. Basically, essentially, you just end up just changing that effect right there. All right, so this is kind of one major component. You create this bus system. All right, so the next tutorial, let's look at multiple effects and how to daisy chain them using buses as well.